how many times have you heard this over the last week and change? The 2025 NFL Draft is in the books. It is one of the worst sports cliches we have. But with it being over, I do want to peek at some free agent targets for Atlanta because after May 1st, any signings do not count for or against your future compensatory draft picks. So, quick background here. If you lose a bunch of players in free agency, you get comped for that in the next year's draft with comp picks, which range from rounds 3 to 7 based on how good the player is, how big of a contract they signed, and how well they played that next season. It's a secret formula that the NFL has. So a lot of teams may wait till after May 1st to sign players because it does not offset any departures they had from free agency. Because if you sign players and lose players in free agency, they kind of cancel one another out. So with Atlanta making 5 selections in the draft, I want to look at some remaining roster holes that could be filled with a few veteran players out there. So let's get started by looking at my first of 4 free agents, starting with Za'Darius Smith, defensive end who played for the Browns and Lions last year, traded midseason to Detroit after they lost Aiden Hutchinson. So some background on Za'Darius Smith. Last year, between 2 teams, very productive still, 9 sacks. That would have been number 1 for the Falcons with room to spare. You can look at the last 4 years, and sure, in 2023, just 5.5 sacks, but he generated a ton of pressure for Cleveland as well. I mean, only 5.5, but think about it this way. It was enough for Andrew Berry and the Browns to give him a 2-year contract. Now, he's hopped around the league a little bit, starting off in Baltimore, but he has also learned how to play as a defensive end and an outside linebacker. When he was with Green Bay and Minnesota, he played as an outside linebacker in a 3-4 defense. Then when he played for the Browns in a 4-3 defense, he played as a defensive end. So he's got that ability to be a bit of a switch hitter. And I think that's something that Atlanta could be drawn to because while they did add James Pierce and Jalen Walker, they didn't really add a defensive end in the draft. And last year they added Rukaroro, but I think he's more of a Grady Jarrett replacement than your traditional like Calais Campbell 5-technique defensive end. So Morgan Fox did come over from the Chargers in free agency, but if Terry is like, hey, I've already borrowed 2 draft picks from next year, I got to feel like this is a little bit of an all-in season for Fontenot. He may not hold back. He may not leave anything to chance. So with Za'Darius Smith on the market, he could go up there and he could play defensive end. He could rotate in, just save him for 3rd and long, just for passing situations. Use Zach Harrison and Morgan Fox on 1st and 2nd, and sprinkle in Smith for, 15 snaps a game. At his age, I still think he can get you a good amount of sacks. And right now, I don't think the Falcons can ever be satisfied with their pass rush. They should always be striving to improve, knowing their history at that spot. So that's the first free agent target I want to look at. Quick question. Is there going to be a Falcon that gets 10 or more sacks this year? If there is one, I'll go with Leonard Floyd. If you're thinking Jalen Walker or James Pierce, the last rookie to get 10 or more sacks in a year was Micah Parsons in 2021. No one's done it the last 3 years. In fact, only 5 players have done it since 2016. I'll let you guys chew on that, and I'll give you the other 4 players at the end of the video, so a little impromptu mid-video trivia. The next guy is a player we've talked a ton about during the offseason. It is cornerback Asante Samuel Jr. He is still a free agent. I still don't really know why. The only thing that I can make sense of for why he is on the market is that shoulder injury he suffered last year might be worse than people are expecting it, and he's not doing a great job of passing or flying through medicals. But looking at Atlanta's cornerback room, they did not add a traditional corner in the draft. So if they were eyeing a corner who went before them in the draft, maybe after a few picks of DBs with Xavier Watts and Billy Bowman and a couple of really good UDFA DBs coming in, they are still not satisfied at the cornerback position. And that's where Asante Samuel could be a really good fit for the Falcons. He played in a Chargers defense last year that used a ton of zone. The Falcons were not far behind him in their zone usage. So from a schematic fit, I think it'd be, perfect, like a glove. And then from a production standpoint, look at what he did his first 3 years. 3 consecutive seasons with two interceptions and double-digit pass breakups. Now, last year, season cut short due to a shoulder injury. But if the Falcons feel comfortable with the shoulder and his price tag drops a bunch, would you rather have Asante Samuel at nickel, or would you rather have D. Alford and Clark Phillips? In a vacuum, I'm taking Asante Samuel. When you factor in the development for Phillips and for Billy Bowman and maybe Kobe Bryant, one of the more premier UDFA signings, I can understand why you want to go with the youngins, go with the homegrown guys, right? Trust your farm system a little bit. But I use the same logic I use for the Za'Darius Smith, possible acquisition. Terry Fontenot took a first and a fifth from next year's draft. I get the sense that Fontenot feels some pressure to deliver this year. And if he wants to go get a instant upgrade, Samuel, Watts, Bates, Terrell, Hughes is a no-fly zone. We're going to talk about 2 more guys in just a moment, but we are 20 subs away from 36,000. Help me reach this next milestone. Click that subscribe button if you haven't yet. Make sure you are getting the best free Atlanta Falcons YouTube coverage available. Third guy I want to put on your radar is a center. It is Nick Harris. Now, this is not as splashy as the first 2 guys, but I think this one might be a little bit more realistic than the first 2. For one, he'll be way cheaper than Smith and Samuel. But for 2, he might come at an actual bigger position of need. He was a 5th-round pick by the Browns back in 2020 out of the University of Washington. He's had some bad injury luck. In the 2022 preseason, he tore his ACL when he was slated to be the starter, not even 5 snaps into the first preseason game. So immediately he is off the table for all of 2022 when he was supposed to be the team's starting center. Fortunately for him, he does not have a starting job when he comes back in 2023. The guy who replaced him played very well, and he has been the starter since then. But if the Falcons feel like we should probably bring in a little bit more competition for our Drew Dahlman replacement, Ryan Neusel, I could see a guy who is supposed to be a team starting center and who has played well when called upon, but just after that injury, he fell to the back of the depth chart and he never really had a chance to climb back up again. But that doesn't mean he's no longer a good center. It just means he had an opportunity, he got injured, and then that opportunity never came back with the Browns. And then in 2024, unfortunately, he broke his leg in an Eagles game early in October. So if the medicals check out, and that's a big if, a torn ACL, a fractured fibula, those are big medical concerns right there. But if he is healthy, I don't think it's a bad idea to bring in a little bit more competition for Neusel, right? Worst case scenario, you feel like you have a more competent backup with Harris, who was supposed to be a starting center for the Cleveland Browns, if not for injuries. We're going to look at my last free agent target, and I guarantee you it's going to catch you off guard. But first things first, if you want to get a Jalen Walker jersey, if you're a big Georgia fan, or if you're like me and you love the Vols, and you want to get a James Pierce Jr. jersey, go to chatsports.com/ATL rookies. It's a pre-order, so once the jersey numbers are selected by the players, they'll ship the jersey out to you. But you got to use this link, chatsports.com/ATL rookies. I put that link in the comments and description of today's video. It's a great way to support the channel as well while getting a Fanatics Atlanta Falcons jersey. So let's look at my 4th free agent target. And I'm going to go with a kicker, Eddy Pineiro from the Carolina Panthers. Used to be the Chicago Bears kicker. Then they brought in Cairo Santos, and kind of like Nick Harris, Pinero got injured, and then the job was just never there when he got healthy again. But I feel like we have to discuss a possible kicker acquisition with how poorly Younhoe Koo kicked last year. Pinero, by the way, you want a fun fact? He missed a few kicks towards the end of the year for Carolina, But he, for a moment in time, was the NFL's all-time leading kicker in field goal percentage with a correct minimum number of kicks. Now, then he missed 1 or 2 kicks, and, when it comes down to percentages, you miss 1, you got to hit 3 more to kind of make up for it. But if the Falcons want to bring in some competition for a kicker who was not good last year, Pinero, I think, would be a really good starting spot right there. He's done a good job with Carolina, and I just feel that competition for Younhoe Koo should be addressed. I don't think they should just ignore what happened last year and go, it's a fluke. No. As a kicker, it's very black and white. You make it or you miss it. As a quarterback, it's not so black and white. Right? Great pass, but the receiver drops it. But no one ever knows that would have been a touchdown pass, or it goes through the receiver's hands and it's intercepted, but you look bad for the interception. Kicker, it's make or miss. And there were way too many misses last year for Koo to just waltz on into Flowery Branch for off-season workouts and go, yep, it's my job, and I don't have to worry about anyone else taking it from me. I would bring in some more competition. So what is your confidence level in Koo bouncing back? Scale it for me 1 to 10. I'm going to put it at a 5.9. I want to believe it, but sometimes this happens to kickers. They get the yips, and then they just never quite bounce back from it. So after looking over the 4 free agent targets, I really couldn't find a 5th one that I felt was realistic, and so I didn't want to just toss one out there for shits and giggles. But after looking over those 4 guys, let me know who you would like to see Atlanta sign. One of them, someone I left off my list. Scroll on down, be a part of the conversation in the chat, and I'm going to sign off and see everyone next time.